side. So the dangers of using AI wrong. So first danger, your data leaving the building. So just like with the Samsung story and the things that we discussed, di ba, every time an employee pastes information into a free AI tool, that data travels into an external server you do not own or control. Danger two, AI hallucination. Naranasan niyo ba with any AI tool that they tell you that they don't know? AI will not tell you that they don't know anything. They will fabricate stories. They will uh, make up any situation just so it can answer your question. Okay? And the worst part is it will do it confidently and convincingly. Was sobrang confident and mako-convince ka talaga sa sagot niya. So one real case example of this is a lawyer in the US na he uses AI to build his case. And then may ni-reference siya isang existing case that is purely made up. So, ginamit siya sa court and then it was found out that that case was not existing. It was not real. So, he was sanctioned by the court. Okay? Kasi nag-refer siya ng case na hindi naman talaga totoo. And then, of course, there's also the financial reports. I'm sure you've heard multiple reports of this already from different companies where AI hallucinated the figures and the reports they're presenting to the board or the executives. So, a very specific example is a company, sabi dun ni AI, their sales were up. So, ang laki ng sales nila in this region. So, what they did was they planned all of their marketing, their product launches, yung inventory nila, they moved there kasi nga yun ang sabi ni AI. And now, they're done with the planning stage, they're in the execution na. So I think they were halfway through the execution and just one employee wanted to confirm something. And then they found out that all of the figures, all of the analysis were fabricated by AI. So nandun na lahat ng decision nila, yung money, di ba, the investment is already there and it can really harm any businesses. Danger three is the privacy toggle myth. And sino ba gumagamit nung yung privacy that you're not storing my data in ChatGPT? Kasi I saw earlier kanina na ang laki ng ChatGPT that we're using. And almost all of AI tools may ganito, di ba? So, I just don't have a smoking gun, di ba? I don't have a clear evidence of this, but I'm pretty sure na hindi talaga lahat na yung erase. And the AI owners or yung mga gumawa ng AI nito, they're very careful when answering the privacy or where your file goes to. Anong ginagawa nila doon. So, and let's imagine for a second na sige, they're not really storing your data. There is a difference between an AI directly storing your data and an AI learning statistical patterns from your inputs. So many people believe that turning off data sharing in AI setting means the AI forgets everything. But AI systems may still learn from patterns in your input, how you respond, how you even type, 'di ba? What are your patterns of speaking, manner of speaking, and how you respond to every content. Nagle-learn pa rin si AI doon. Na ina-analyze siya pa rin your patterns and what you do with it. Okay? So, going to the next danger is deepfakes and AI fraud. Nabalita din 'to, I'm sure you heard of this or if not, there was a finance employee in Hong Kong who transferred $25 million, 'di ba, after a deepfake video call with the executives. Lahat ng nasa call na yon, the CEO, CFO, they were all deepfakes. They copied uh, the same look, 'di ba? Tao talaga ganito, parang ako. Baka malay niyo deepfake din ako. And they even use the same voice, the same intonation. So it convinced that employee na tama, sige, we'll transfer $25 million to an offshore account. So this is a really high-powered AI scam and it is happening to real companies nowadays. And even these scam calls are already happening in the Philippines. Personalized with your own data in a voice that sounds completely human. I know of a friend na alam ng scammer her schedule, alam niya na she won't be able to answer because she will be in a meeting. So someone called their parang parents or relative and said, oh, this woman got into an accident, we need this money. Hindi ko alam kung narinig niyo na rin siya with the news or with your other friends. But good thing na hindi nagbigay ng money yung relatives niya. But 'di ba, hindi nila makontak kasi they were in a meeting and alam nila nga na nag-travel. So it's highly plausible. Talagang kapaniwala na yung scam that they are doing. Okay? So, this is one of the dangers of using AI. Then another thing is over-reliance and disappearing human judgment. This is a subtle danger and it's happening all around us, diba? So when AI becomes too embedded in your decision making without proper oversight, people stop questioning it. Hindi nyo na kina-question. You trust it completely and 100%. So a sample with this, kunyari HR that is using AI as the one analyzing or assessing the HR, the resumes of the applicants, it completely trust it. Hindi niya na ginagawan ng sarili niyang assessment or double checking, 'di ba? Kung ano sino talaga yung AI, sino talaga yung applicant that meets the criteria. Another thing is, I'm not sure if you also read this report that may a student created their own thesis, tapos na-flag ng AI tool na ginagamit ng school to analyze if those theses are AI generated. Sabi, AI generated daw. But the student was insisting na, no, you can see my Google Doc history that he was typing it, he was making changes on the document for months. Diba? So that is over-reliance and nawawala ni human judgment when we're using AI. And the last danger is shadow AI. So shadow AI refers to the AI tools that your employees are adapting on their own without IT approval, without a company policy, and without anyone knowing it. Right now, someone on your team is probably using an AI tool you have never heard of before. So, kanina, di ba, we asked about the AI tools you're using. So, some of you may in-input then na I think others are not familiar with. So, maybe they found it online, it's free, it solves their problem, and they have absolutely no idea what it does with the data they feed it. So this is very, very dangerous because you cannot govern what you cannot see. So I know that section was heavy, but I shared all of that not to scare you, but to prepare you, diba? Prevention is always better than cure. So because every single danger that I describe has a solution, and that solution starts with governance. Governance. Wow, big word. Okay, pero governance, ano lang siya, it might be intimidating, but what it really means is simple. Having clear rules about how AI is used in your organization. So think of it as traffic rules. Diba? Cars are big, they're powerful, kung walang traffic rules, baka nagbanggaan na siya. Like you're supposed to drive in the right lane, tapos yung opposite side is going on the left lane. There's pedestrian crossing, there's traffic lights. So it makes everyone parang driving safer for everyone. And parang nandun yung confidence mo, hindi ka mababangga, hindi masasira yung bahay mo ng kotse anytime soon because there are rules around it. So imagine governance is the traffic system for AI in your business. So where do we start? Where do we start with governance? We start here with 3 questions and I want us to answer this honestly. Not hindi kung ano yung gusto nyo, not as you plan things, but as they actually are right now with your company. So number 1, what AI tools is our team currently using? You don't have to share that. You can take note of that as we talk para at least you're prepared to make the governance on your own with your own team. The next question is, what data are they putting into those tools? Next is, do we have any rules around this and does everyone know them? If you cannot answer 3 confidently, that is your starting point. So dapat eto, confidently alam mo agad yung sagot. Kung hindi, pwede tayo dito magsimula with creating our own governance. Okay. Now, building an AI policy doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a 50-page document. You can start with one. Let's start with 1 page, diba? So first, you cover which tools are approved for use in your company. Next, what data can be and cannot be entered into any AI tools. So dapat clear what can you put in, what are strictly not for any uploading even files, diba? So who is responsible for overseeing AI usage? Sino ba yung magiging enforcer? Like with traffic, di ba? There are enforcer for the rules. So para they can oversee ano yung mangyayari if someone violates or ano yung pwedeng maging dangers ng usage with other AI tools. And then what to do if a potential breach or misuse is suspected. And then my advice is, this is very important, is to involve your team in creating the policy. When people help build the rules, they are far more likely to follow them. And they also know, di ba, in day-to-day operations in your company, they also know what is the micro things that happen. So they can really contribute to that policy. So what should never go into an AI tool? So these are just sample information that should never go on an AI tool. Of course, client personal information, passwords, financials. But the rule of thumb here is, imagine na if this information appear anywhere in public or in any data breach, would it damage your business? Would it damage your client? Would it damage your employee? Or would it damage you? So pagka yung information na yun appears anywhere public or nakita siya sa data breach, it means that it should never also go into any AI public tool. Okay? So that's the rule of thumb here. So how do we use AI without giving all that information? So basically, we use placeholders. So sample, analyze one developer's salary of 85,000 pesos. You can say to the AI tool that analyze a mid-level employee salary and you just give a particular range, not be specific about it and do not disclose the person's name. So instead of referencing specific clients or employees, describe the situation in general terms. You can get the same quality output from an AI without exposing information that could put your business at risk. So for example, this deal, diba? Or this draft email. Draft an email to ABC Corp about their overdue payment of 2 million. You can tell the AI the context of the email. So for example, there's a client that owes us this amount of money. Can you draft a professional email to them so for an overdue payment? So you're not disclosing any information of who the client is or even the amount. You're just asking AI to help you draft an email about that. So the key is giving AI context, not raw data. Right? So these are other samples of safer prompting. As you can see, we removed all the personally identifiable information and just use general terms. Okay. So now let us bring this closer to home because governance is not just for companies. It starts with you personally. So these are the personal best practices for how to share your data on the internet or in any AI tools. So first, do not overshare on social media. I know na some of us lagi talaga nagpo-post and that's okay before, but now you don't know who has access to your pictures, who has access to where you are. So let's be careful what we share on social media because yun nga, they have the right to use your data when you click accept on any of their tools that you're using right now. Next is be careful with free apps. Read what permissions you are granting before accepting. Like I said earlier, if it's free, the you are probably the product. So because nothing is truly free. Next, never upload sensitive photos or documents to free online tools. I'm sure you have I'm guilty of this before, yung nako-convert from document to PDF, di ba? You upload a document tapos it will convert it into another file format. So never upload any sensitive photos or information to any of the tool that is free. And for best practices, wag na din tayo talagang mag-upload. Okay? Then use strong inputs and passwords for every account and enable two-factor authentication. Next would be to regularly audit what apps have access to your accounts, 'di ba? When you're using apps now, may mga quick shortcut like you use your Google account or use your Facebook account. So you need to regularly audit what apps have access to your information. And then if you notice, 'di ba, when you're using Facebook login, there's this parang checkbox that to share your activity or anything, you can uncheck that. You can also check what information are they getting from your Facebook account before you truly log in. Then think before you type. Again, the key thing is, would you be comfortable if this become public? Diba? Pagka nag-type ka, tapos na-associate siya with you, like, Nicole has this, or na alam ni AI that you are this one, and it becomes public, would you be comfortable if it becomes known? So if not, don't type it into any AI tool. So never also enter personal IDs, any other people's information to public tool, especially other people's information. And of course, never enter passwords or security credentials into any AI tool ever. Now, let us scale this up to your organization because the reality is your personal habits only protect you. So, to protect your business, you need to build a culture. So, first, start by designating someone responsible for data privacy. So, this is, I'm sure you're all familiar with DPO. So, even in small teams, someone needs to own this. Next is conduct an AI awareness session for your entire team, not just the IT. Kasi the risk does not come from your IT department alone. It comes from anyone who uses a computer that links with the internet. Make data privacy part of your onboarding process. Every new employee should know your AI policy before they even start. Okay? Then create a written AI usage policy. What tools are allowed, what data cannot be shared, who is responsible. Then regularly review and audit of your AI tools. Regularly. Kasi uh, tools tools evolve and even people evolve. 'Di ba? Regularly audit including the ones you didn't approve, not just once. Because new ones appear, 'di ba? Your team's habit also evolves, so you need to keep on checking. Then, also a quick tip, create a safe environment. 'Di ba na your employees can really admit what they did wrong or report accidental misuse without fear. Kasi you want people to come forward, not when something goes wrong or not when it blows up on your face, but the minute that they something did wrong, they will not hide it, but to air it out in the open so you guys can mitigate what action to do. Okay? Then next is designate an AI champion per team. So AI champion doesn't need to be the most technical person. Ito yung excited about AI that lagi siyang nag-research. He wants to know what's the newest, the most curious one. So someone who stays updated and shares best practices about AI. So kung sino yun, even if it's not an IT person, you can designate that AI champion. And then for business handling highly sensitive data like banks or clinics, law firms, or even HR, yung they call this manpower agencies, seriously consider private hosted AI models. So what is AI? Private hosted AI model. So it is AI that runs on your own servers and never sends data outside your organization. So this is exactly also why we built the Xmind, because business owners deserve AI that works for them, not one that learns from their confidential data and shares it elsewhere. And then remember that governance is not just policies and tools, it is culture. The companies that will thrive in the AI era are not just the ones with the best tools. They are the ones with the most people responsible behind those tools. Okay. So we have covered a lot of ground today: data privacy, the dangers, solutions, and I want to leave here and I want you to leave here, okay? Not overwhelmed, but equipped. Because everything I have shared today is actionable. You can start today. And let me leave you something concrete. I want you to leave with just three things, not a long to-do list, just three. If you do these three things this week, you are already ahead of most businesses in the Philippines. Number one, audit. List every tool your team is currently using, including the ones you didn't approve. Second is Jack. Write a one-page AI usage policy for your organization. And then identify. So just pick one business process, diba, that AI helps you with. Let's say, for example, the main thing that your company is using AI for is replying to emails or drafting emails. So focus on that one business process and make the policy with privacy in mind. So for example, you create a policy na no personal information or no disclosing of this information when asking AI to help us edit emails. Okay, so just identify one or two business process that you can have the AI privacy policy that na you can draft into a one page for your organization. So these three steps will not make you an AI expert overnight, but they will make you a responsible AI leader. And right now, that matters more than anything. Okay, not you being an expert, but you being responsible. So where digital can help. If today you raise questions that are specific to your business, for example, about auditing or right governance, we would love to continue that conversation with you. So here is can what we can specifically help you with. So we can do AI audit. We can audit your business if you're already ready for AI and what tools that you can use. We can also do AI governance and policy. We can help you draft practical business specific policy covering data, privacy, and approved tools. We can also do custom AI solutions. So we build we build chatbot, voice bots, analysis, and everything. And we also do case pilot workshop. So you can do your first AI automation with hands-on support. We also do team capability building, so ongoing training sessions for your staff for AI literacy to advanced prompting and workflow automation. And of course, the Xmind, our private AI brain specifically for business who want the full power of AI without their confidential data ever leaving their hands. We also run AI trainings for teams who want to learn how to use AI properly, responsibly, and effectively. If you think we can help you with any of this or you want a deeper conversation about AI, feel free to contact us. And I want to end with this. AI is the most powerful tool. It's one of the most powerful tools our generation has ever been given. It can help you serve your customers better, make smarter decisions, and grow your business in ways that were not possible before, diba? But like with any powerful tool, a hammer, a knife, or even fire, diba? It can build or it can destroy. Fire can be useful or it can be used to destroy anything. So it is dependent entirely on the hands that hold it. I started this talk with Samsung, a company that had every resource in the world and still got burned because of how carelessly their people used AI. I do not want that to be your story. So my prayer for each of you today, for each one of us, is that we hold to this tool wisely. That you use AI not just to grow your bottom line, but to serve people better, to protect the trust your customers have placed in you, and to build something that lasts. Because at the end of the day, technology is not just a tool. People still matter most, and how we choose to use what we have been given, that is what defines us. And thank you, and God bless you all. So let us open the floor for questions. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Miss Nicole. So, of course, we would like to commend you. That was a great talk. And I especially like how you also offered, actionable advice that our participants can take with them. Personally, there are certain parts in there. For example, me personally, I'm guilty, but as someone working in this field na we are in the compliance and data privacy industry, parang na-consider ko na rin yung risks and actually, but I have the privilege of working in a company like the Castro Consulting, but not all employees or not everyone has the privilege na they're working in an environment na may culture talaga ng data privacy. So, ayan, hopefully our participants learn so much from you. And as I've mentioned, you can always connect with Digitier or Miss Nicole if you have any other questions or if you specifically want to inquire about AI and yung AI services na ina-offer nila. And yes, we will be giving handouts and recaps of the event after the discussion. So now that that's out of the way, um, as we talk about AI, automations, and digital systems, of course, it's also important that we look at the legal, compliance, and data privacy side of the conversation because as what I've picked up trend from Miss Nicole's talk, AI does not operate in isolation. It really interacts with data, it affects people, and it can influence decisions. So because of that, it creates responsibilities for organizations using it. So for the next portion of our masterclass, we have our second speaker with us, none other than our favorite attorney, Stefan Del Rosario. So, Attorney Stefan Del Rosario is a senior legal associate and an accredited data protection officer delivering complex compliance-driven legal solutions. He's committed to continuous growth, and he has experience in data privacy, immigration, tax, corporate secretarial work, and other regulatory matters, supporting, of course, our client needs. But today, specifically, he will help us understand how data privacy principles, compliance obligations, and governance considerations apply as organizations adopt AI tools and legal systems. So here to teach us and go over about the basics or yung mga foundational knowledge that we need to have about data privacy. Let's all welcome Attorney Stefan Del Rosario to today's session. So you can send in your heart reacts, your clap reacts. Hello, Attorney Stefan. Happy to have you here with us today.
Hello, V. Thank you for that very generous introduction. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I don't know about you, but listening to Miss Nicole talk about the power of AI gets me very excited about where our businesses are headed. Now, as she mentioned, it's clear that AI is no longer just a trend, it's a day to day reality now. And the engine that's driving all of this incredible AI technology is data. And where there is data, there is also a massive business responsibility. So this is where data privacy comes in. Now, data privacy isn't just a compliance headache or a tech issue for the IT department. It's a fundamental business strategy. If your clients don't trust you with their information, they're going to take their business to a competitor who will protect their data. Okay? So, over the next few minutes, we're going to be stripping away the overwhelming legal text and focus on the practical essentials. We're going to be breaking down the key terms of data privacy, the core actors that you have to know about, and also some basic principles you need to protect your businesses. Okay? Sige. So, let's begin. Yan. Okay, so in the Philippines, we have one main law when it comes to data privacy, and that's, of course, the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Now, this act recognizes two main ideas. Number one, that free flow of information is encouraged to promote innovation and growth. And number two, the state must protect the fundamental rights to privacy. Now, if we look at this closely, we can see that these two are a bit um, counterintuitive. So it's a major balancing act. Do we protect the right of free flow of information, or do we protect the right to privacy? So this is the goal of the Data Privacy Act, to control and balance these two things. Okay. Wait, V, do I have access? Do I have access to change the slides? Wala. Wala, no? Okay, never mind. Let's go. Next slide. So I always like to begin with a few misconceptions about data privacy. Number one, people always say that people always think that data privacy only applies to the cyber world. That's not true. Of course, anywhere that there's data, the Data Privacy Act applies. So if it's physical documents, mga resumes natin that we submit to our employers, these are all covered by the data privacy. Another misconception is that private interactions on social media are covered by the Data Privacy Act. Unfortunately, hindi. So a client of mine contacted me saying na, attorney, I was messaging someone online. He took a screenshot of of our messages. Can I file a case under data privacy? Short answer is no, because that's data privacy only covers interaction between personal information controllers and um, personal information processors and the data subjects. So if individual to individual, hindi yan siya covered by the Data Privacy Act. Of course, you can file a case under the Cyber Crimes Act, but that's a different topic, no? And then lastly is when people say that this data privacy doesn't really affect me because I did not give out my consent. We're going to be learning later on that even though consent is the main way of acquiring our data, it's not the only way of acquiring our data. there are legal and also illegal means of acquiring our data. I think Miss Nicole also mentioned the very rampant phenomenon of us receiving random messages, random emails, and the scary part is they know our names. Nakaka-receive ako ng message na, "Good morning, Stefan. Do you want to work for this and this and that?" So it's very alarming. So just because we didn't give out our consent doesn't mean hindi na doesn't mean that we shouldn't know about data privacy. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. Now, for us to understand data privacy laws in the Philippines, we have to know the scope of the Data Privacy Act. It covers the processing of all types of personal information by any natural or juridical person involved in personal information processing. This includes personal information controllers and personal information processors. So it's a very limited scope. It's just the processing of all types of personal information, whether by natural or juridical individuals. Um, and these individuals or persons are called controllers and processors. We're going to be discussing it later on. We just want to know the scope. Next slide. So now that we know where or when the Data Privacy Act applies, we also need to know when does it not apply. So saan ba na hindi applicable yung laws on data privacy? Number one, on information about any individual who is or was an officer or employee of a government institution if the information relates to their position or function. So what does this mean? Practically speaking, it means that if you're a public officer, let's say you're a mayor, you can't hide your personal information. You can't hide your name. You can't hide your any information with regard to your office. So hindi siya protected under the Data Privacy Code. Does that mean na lahat ng information ng mga public officers are not are not covered by the Data Privacy Code? Of course not. It just means that any and all information that relates to their position or function hindi siya protected under data privacy. So it has to be public knowledge. Another thing is information about an individual who is or was performing services under a contract for a government institution if the information relates to the services performed. Biggest example nito is the recent scandal ng ano tawag nun? Sa flood control projects. They can't hide any information regarding that flood control projects because uh, it's under a public contract. Another thing is information relating to any discretionary benefit of a financial nature, such as the granting of a license or permit given by the government. So hindi covered ng data privacy. Public information kasi ito. Okay? Next is personal information processed for journalistic, artistic, literary, or research purposes. Another is information necessary to carry out the functions of public authority, information necessary for banks and other financial institutions under the jurisdiction of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So ang cover dito is AMLA. So banks are mandated to report any suspicious activities. So hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na the bank violated your right to data privacy when they reported you to the BSP. And lastly is personal information originally collected from residents of foreign jurisdictions. So the general rule when it comes to the Data Privacy Act in the Philippines is that it only applies within the territory of the Philippines. If it's outside the Philippines, ibang laws na yan yung magko-cover. Of course, we have this thing called extraterritorial application. So next slide, please. So what is extraterritorial application? This means that there are instances where the Data Privacy Act of 2012 will apply. So medyo marami to. Examples of links to the Philippines where extraterritorial application applies is number one, when a contract is entered into the Philippines. Number two, if a juridical entity is unincorporated in the Philippines but has central management and control in the country. And number three, when an entity has a branch, agency, office, or subsidiary in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So ito, there are a lot of instances where the DPA or the Data Privacy Act also applies outside. No? So another is where the parent or affiliate of the Philippine entity has access to personal information when the entity carries on business in the Philippines and when personal information was collected or held by an entity in the Philippines. So I know it's confusing, but the general rule or what I like to practice is that if there are two elements in a transaction, it means it's covered by the Data Privacy Act. What are these two elements? Number one is that it concerns with Filipino individuals. So if it's the data of Filipino individuals, and number two is if there's another Filipino element. So let's say a foreign corporation processes, there's no domestic entity here in the Philippines. However, they process a lot of Filipino information. So that means that they should be covered under the Data Privacy Act. Okay? So next slide, please. Okay, so let's do a quick overview of the data privacy laws in the Philippines. We've already discussed the Data Privacy Act of 2012, and the next important law or act is its implementing rules and regulations. These two are the main laws we should look at whenever we talk about data privacy law in the Philippines. Of course, we can't expect our legislators to be able to tackle everything when it comes to data privacy in these two laws. So saan tayo tatakbo? If we have additional questions that we can't find answers for in these two laws, we look at the National Privacy Commission's issuances and advisories. So the NPC, or the National Privacy Commission, is a government agency handling data privacy in the Philippines. They regularly issue circulars, advisories, issuances with regards to any updates on when it comes to data privacy. So if my bagong issue when it comes to data privacy, chances are the NPC has released a circular regarding it. To mention a few, here are on the screen a few important circulars. Number one, NPC Circular 16-02 when it comes to data sharing. There's breach management, rules of procedure, registration, protection officer guidelines, privacy data sheet guidelines, privacy impact assessment guidelines, which are very important, and report template. So this is another thing that we as business owners should be aware of. The good thing about the NPC is that they provide all of the templates for us. So annual reporting, breach reporting, you can find all of that in the NPC website. Makes it easier for us. Okay? Now let's move on to a few key terms when it comes to data privacy. Number one most important key term is data subject. What are data subjects? These are the individuals whose personal information is processed, meaning tayong lahat. If our information is being processed, you're considered as a data subject. Number two most important key term when it comes to data privacy is consent. Consent serves as the basis for collecting information. This is the number one way that controllers or entities collect our information, via our consent. Of course, we're going to be learning later on that it's not just consent. There are other ways of acquiring our information, but when we talk about the main way, it's always consent. No. Another important aspect when it comes to data privacy is, of course, the rights of the data subjects. Even though we're business owners here, and more often than not, we're going to be the controllers or we're going to be the ones who collect information, we need to know what the rights are of the data subjects. Number one, because we need to know how to protect our customers, we need to know how to protect our employees, and because we ourselves are data subjects. So, what are the basic rights of data subjects when it comes to data privacy in the Philippines? Number one is the right to be informed. What does this mean? It means that whenever our data is collected, we have the right to know, number one, that it's being collected. Number two, who's doing the collecting. Number three, what's the purpose of the collection. Number four, how is it going to be used? How is it going to be transferred? How is it being stored? If it's going to be shared, to whom it's going to be shared, and also If I have any questions regarding my data, who do I contact? So all of these things are included in a right to be informed. So us as business owners or controllers, personal information controllers, we have to be aware of this. We have to inform all of our data subjects of all of these things because this is their number one and most fundamental right. Number two is the right to access. What does this mean? So let's say, for example, we've already collected the data of our data subjects. Our data subjects have the right to request access. They have the right to know kung ano yung data na na-collect na natin. So if they ask, let's say they message our DPO stating that I've been using your website for quite some time now, and I've noticed that you've been collecting a lot of my information, and I've lost track of what that information is. I want to have I want you to give me a list of all the information that you have on me. That's their right to request for that, and it's our obligation to let them know all of the information that we have collected on them. Okay? So that's the right to access. Next is the right to object. Let's go back, sorry. Right to object. When we say the right to object, it's whenever a PIC or collector of information requests for information. Of course, the data subject can say no. If we say, if we as our business or our website asks for their name, contact details, if ayaw ibigay ng data subject, they can say no. So that's one of their rights. Another is the right to erasure or blocking. So what's the difference between the right to object and the right to erase or the right to block? When we talk about the right to object, it's before collection. So you're stopping the collection from the inception of it. The right to erase and the right to block comes in once our data has already been collected. Let's say the data subject has already given it out its consent. Na-collect na yung data, we're currently using the data, and then a few days later or a few however long later, the data subject changes their mind. They say, oh, I regret giving out my consent, I regret giving out my information. They can always contact the controller of information and request that their data be deleted or that their data be blocked. And it's our obligation as data controllers or data processors to do so. Okay. However, this right is not absolute. It doesn't mean whenever a data subject requests for their data to be deleted, we have to do it. There are a few exceptions. Number one is 201 files. So 201 files, these are the files of our employees. So let's say we have an employee, he resigned. Once he resigned, the day after he calls the company and says, I don't want you to have to be holding my information. I don't want you to be holding my 201 files. Please delete it. Does that mean that we as employers have to delete their 201 files immediately? The answer, of course, is no. Because under the law, we have this um, obligation to retain the 201 files for at least 3 years. No? So if the law says that we have to retain it for 3 years, hindi natin pwede i-delete within those 3 years, even if the employee insists na i-delete. Okay? After the 3 years, of course, if the employee says to delete, then we have to delete. Okay, I hope that's clear. Next is the right to rectify. So what does the right to rectify mean? It just means that basically whenever we've collected data and then the data subject realizes na mali pala yung nabigay nila na data. Um, they've given out their wrong address. Of course, the data subject has the right to request it to be rectified, to be corrected. You don't have my correct address, please change it. Simple as that. Next right is the right to damages and the right to file a complaint. So, of course, if the data subject feels like any of their rights have been violated, they can file a complaint with the NPC. And if the NPC finds you liable or if the NPC finds that they have indeed suffered damages, they have the right to receive damages. Okay? And lastly is the right to data portability. What does this mean? As we mentioned earlier, data subjects have the right to access their data. They can ask for a copy. And the right to data portability states that whenever they ask for this copy, it has to be in an easy or in a convenient um, form. So let's say humingi yung data subject ng list of information. Hindi mo silang pwedeng i-hassle, sabihin na, okay, you come to the office, we're gonna print it out, wait 2 hours. You can't do that. If they want it sent to their email, you have to comply. If they want it in a form that's easily accessible, you have to comply. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. So now let's move on to consent. Because kanina we talked about the data subjects, the right the rights of data subjects. Now let's move on to consent. So as I keep mentioning earlier, no, consent is the number one way of collecting information, collecting data, requesting for data. Now, what does consent mean when it comes to data privacy? Under the NPC Circular 2023-04, consent, in order to be valid, in order to allow the collection of data, there are four distinct elements. And all of these four have to be present. Number one, consent has to be freely given. What does this mean? It means bawal na coerce yung data subject. They shouldn't have felt threatened. Dapat walang coercion involved. They should have given their consent freely. Number two, consent should have been given. Consent has to be specific. What does this mean? Whenever we collect information, let's say our employee's name. Whenever we collect our employee's name, we don't just use it for one singular purpose. No, collect it for their identity. We also use it for SSS purposes, pag-ibig purposes, PhilHealth purposes. So whenever we collect for information, dapat isa-isa natin hinihingi. Let's say, can I collect your information for purpose A, purpose B, and purpose C? So whenever they give out their consent, hindi siya pwedeng umbrella consent na sasabihin nila na, I consent. I consent to all. Hindi pwede ganyan. It has to be granular. Whenever they give out their consent, it has to be I consent to A, I consent to B, I consent to C. Okay? Next is consent has to be informed. So this has to do with their right to be informed. Whenever they give out their consent, bawal na wala silang alam. Let's say my my whenever they give out the information in our website, my consent box lang, and there's no information with regards to what's being collected, kung sino yung who's collecting the information, for what purpose. Let's say that's all blank. So that's an invalid form of consent. Before a data subject can give out valid consent, they have to be informed about everything. Okay? If hindi sila informed and they give out their consent, that's invalid consent and violation na yan. Lastly is consent has to be an indication of will. What does this mean? Basically, it just means the consent given has to be in a form that can be proven. It's the easiest way I can explain it. So whenever we collect our consent or consent is given out, it has to be number one, written. Let's say they signed a contract, said I consent. Pirma, pangalan. That's okay. Number two, electronic means. So the most common that we see in our website is yung click box. I've read the terms and conditions. I give my consent to the collection of my data. They click that box. That's valid. And number three, recorded means. So video recording, audio recording, wherein they indicate their will to give out their consent. So any form that you can prove or any form that you can show an indication of will is a valid form of consent. Okay? Next. So now let's talk about the timing of consent. When do we ask for consent? Of course, we ask for information must be provided at the moment consent is obtained, and additional details should be available through a layered privacy notice. So what does that mean? Basically, ideally, in the best case scenario, before we do the collection, hingi na tayo ng consent. Okay? So that's the general rule of the timing of consent. Next slide, please. Okay. Now let's move on to another key term or key actor when it comes to data privacy. We've already talked about the first one, the data subject. It's everyone. This is where all of the data comes from. It all comes from the data subjects. Now let's talk about the second actor in data privacy, which is, oh sorry, hindi pa pala to actors. This is classification of personal data. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. So let's talk about the classification of personal data. Under the data privacy code, there's number one, personal information. When we say personal information, it's any information, whether recorded or not, from which the identity of an individual is apparent or can be reasonably and directly ascertained. So sa Data Privacy Act natin, sa laws natin, they don't give out a list of things and say this is the list of personal information. They give out a definition. And if pasok siya sa definition, it's going to be considered as personal information. So it's very important that it has to be information that can identify an individual, or if when put together with other information can identify or apparently and reasonably identify an individual. So what are examples of personal information? Number one, a person's name. Pinaka basic. If you have a person's name, you can definitely identify who the owner of that information is. Number two, a person's specific address. Of course, if ilagay lang natin Makati. Makati is an address, but it's not considered as personal information because you don't know who that personal information is. But if you give out the city, the barangay, the street, the condominium, the unit number, then that address is already considered as personal information because with that information, you can identify who it comes from or who's the owner of that information. Another example is a person's signature or a person's picture. So these are things that are considered as personal information. Now, again, it's important to note that the NPC or the Data Privacy Act does not give us a specific list. It just says if pasok siya sa definition na to, it's considered as personal information. Okay, very important. Now that we've talked about the basic personal information, let's talk about sensitive personal information. When we say sensitive personal information, it's a subset of personal information that's given more safeguards and protection under the law due to its nature, due to the fact that if it is breached or it's collected illegally, it may cause harm and damage to the individual. Okay? So, if sa personal information, the Data Privacy Act or the law gave us a definition and said everything um, that napasok sa definition na yan is considered as personal information. Sensitive personal information, on the other hand, is a very, very specific enumeration. The law tells us that here's the enumeration, here's the specific things that's considered as sensitive personal information. If it's here, consider it sensitive. If it's not sensitive. So dito, we're going to have to go one by one. Kasi we need to be aware of everything that's considered as sensitive. So number one is person's race. Next is ethnic origin, marital status, age, color, health, education, genetic life, sexual life, any court or agency proceeding, any information issued by government agencies or peculiar to an individual. This means, let's say, SSS number, PhilHealth number, Pag-ibig number, any, and lastly is any information specifically established by an executive order or an act of Congress to be kept as classified. Okay? So yun yung difference ng personal information and sensitive personal information. Personal information, the law gave us a definition. Pasok siya, personal siya. Sensitive, the law gave us a specific list. If pasok siya dito sa list, it's considered a sensitive personal information. Okay? The next slide, please. Now, as I mentioned earlier, even though consent is the main way that we collect and process information, there are other ways that controllers and processors of information can collect information. Okay, so what are these ways? Number one, if it's related to the fulfillment of a contract. What does this mean? It means when you enter into a contract with someone, you don't really need to ask their consent to collect their information. It's a contractual obligation. You have to collect their information. Number two, if it's necessary for legal compliance of the personal information controller. Number three, if it's necessary to protect the vitally important interests of data subject, including life and health. Number four, if it's necessary in a national emergency. Example nito is contract tracing during the time of the pandemic. Everywhere our information was collected, our name, our address, contact details. Did during all of those times, hiningi ba yung consent natin? Most probably hindi. Because hindi kailangan humingi ng consent. Because it was a time of national emergency. Number three, if the collection is necessary to maintain public order and safety. And number four, if it's necessary for the legitimate interests pursued by the personal information controller. Okay? So next slide. So these are for personal information. Now, how about if it's sensitive personal information? There's a separate list of things. Number one is if it's provided by existing laws and regulations, pwede i-collect yung information natin, sensitive personal information. If it's necessary to protect the life and health of a data subject when the data subject cannot give consent. What's a very basic example of this? Let's say we get into an accident, we're unconscious, somebody brings us to the hospital. Of course, the hospital, the doctors, the nurses are not going to wait for us to wake up to get our consent. Ano po yung blood type niyo, sir? Ano po yung edad niyo? Ano po yung medical history niyo? They're not going to wait for us to, to, to regain consciousness before they collect that. They're going to collect that themselves. So that's an exemption. Next is necessary to achieve the lawful and non-commercial objectives of public organizations, or if it's necessary for purposes of medical treatment, similar as kanina, or necessary for the protection of lawful rights and interests of persons in court proceedings, and if it's provided to a government or public authority pursuant to a constitutional or statutory mandate. So all of these things, pwede mag-collect ng information without asking for consent. Okay? Next. Okay. So whenever we collect information, there are three key principles that we have to be aware of. We have to be conscious of. That's transparency, legitimate purpose, and proportionality. So let's dig deeper one by one. So when we say transparency, it's how data is collected. Can we go to the next slide, please? Of course, this is linked with the data subject's right to be informed. Whenever we collect information, we have to be transparent na we're collecting it, again, who's collecting it, and etc. Lahat ng pinag-usapan natin na right to be informed, that we have to be very transparent with our data subjects. Next is legitimate purpose. So even though we're transparent with our data subject, even though sinabihan natin sila na we're going to be collecting your information, we're going to be using it for this purpose, we can't collect it unless we have a legitimate purpose. What's a legitimate purpose? It means whenever we collect information, it's compatible with the declared and specific purpose. It's not contrary to law. It's not contrary to morals. It's not contrary to public policy. This means that you can't go around collecting information and then telling the data subjects, I'm going to collect your information because I'm going to be selling your information to the black market. Yes, you complied with transparency, but that's not a legitimate purpose. That's contrary to laws. So that collection is already invalid. So aside from those two, you have to be transparent. You have to have a legitimate purpose. Last and most overlooked is the principle of proportionality. What does this mean? It means that even though we were fully transparent with the data subject, they know everything about the collection process, we have a legitimate purpose. it's for legitimate business concerns. The collection still has to be proportionate. The biggest example of this is, let's say, in a recruitment process. Whenever we request information from the potential employees, you let's say you've covered transparency. You let them know that I'm going to be collecting your name, medical history, educational attainment, work history, and etc. For recruitment purposes. You've covered the whole list of things that you have to comply with when it comes to transparency. You also have legitimate purpose because it's you genuinely need to collect that information because you're going to be hiring them for your business. But let's say what once you collected that information, you collected their name, that's valid. You've collected their address, that's valid because you need to know where they live. You've collected their work history and educational attainment. That's also very valid because as a business or as an employer, you have to know if these employees or these potential employees are right for the job. However, let's say you've also collected their political affiliation. You also want to collect their sexual orientation. Is that relevant to the legitimate purpose that you have? Not anymore. Because your legitimate purpose is only for recruitment. It's to hire someone to do a job for you. So you don't need to collect their religion. You don't need to collect their political affiliation. You don't need to collect their gender or sexuality. So these are examples of violations of the principle of proportionality. And I know it's very rampant. No, we over collect. We collect information that isn't really necessary for for our stated purpose, and unfortunately, that's a violation. So it's very important that we're aware that this principle of proportionality exists, and that we conduct an audit on the information that we collect. It's not just for the data subjects, no, because a lot of people say now it's very biased for the data subjects. How about us as controllers? How about us as employers? We need to know this information. The benefit that the employers get from this or the controllers get from this is that by limiting the amount of information and data that you collect, you also limit the amount of possible violations that will happen. If you don't have that many sensitive information in your hands, of course, the chances of it being leaked, the chances of it being hacked becomes lower. So it becomes easier for you to monitor the information that you have. So very important. Don't just concentrate on the principle of transparency and legitimate purpose, but also look at the principle of proportionality. Okay, next. Okay, so dito na tayo sa key actors when it comes to data privacy. So we've already discussed one, the data subject. This is where all of the information comes from. It's from us, the individuals. So the second actor is personal information controllers or controllers. So who are controllers? These are persons or organizations that control the collection, holding, processing, use, transfer, and disclosure of personal information. So that means sila yung nakikinabang. They're the ones who are using the information. They're the ones who are collecting the information from the data subjects. Okay. So next is we have the personal information processors. Next slide, please. So who are processors? Personal information processors. These are natural or juridical persons qualified to act as such under the Data Privacy Act, to whom personal information controllers may outsource the processing of personal data pertaining to data subjects. So what's the difference? Basically, when we talk about controllers, these are the entities or the individuals who collect information for their own use and benefit. So let's say employers, whenever they collect the information of their employees, they're considered as the controllers because they're the ones doing the collecting, They're the ones who are using that information for their own benefit. Processors, on the other hand, are entities where the processing of information is simply outsourced. So another a very good example of this is, let's say, um, there's this company. They did a worldwide or nationwide survey. Nag-collect sila ng information from their customers. They collected information online. They collected information via flyers. So once they have all of this information, they become the controllers. Kasi nga, they're the ones who collected it. They're the ones who want that information. They're the ones who need that information. And they're the ones who collected it from the data subjects. So once they have it, they realized this is too much for us to process. We don't have the means, we don't have the expertise to look into each and every one of these surveys and to extract the important bits. So what do? They contact a third party, let's say a marketing firm. They contact this marketing firm and they say, "Can you help us with this? We've collected all of the surveys, we have all of the raw data, but we don't know what to do with it." So they send all of that raw data to the marketing firm. The marketing firm processes it, summarizes it, and then gives it back to the main company. So in this scenario, the company that did the survey is considered as a controller, and the marketing firm that processed the information just for the company is considered as the processor. So that's a very important distinction. See, marketing firm didn't really need the information. They didn't really need to use the information. Napag-utusan lang sila. The processing is just outsourced to them. So that's a very, very important distinction. You have to know if you are a controller or a processor because the rights, liabilities, and obligations are different in each case. And another important thing is just because you are a controller now doesn't mean controller ka na forever. So it's going to be on a case to case basis. We have to look at each and every different data processing system or data processing scenario and determine if in this specific scenario are we a controller or are we a processor. Okay? So there are a lot of instances where you're a controller here, but in the next process you're only a processor. Okay? Sige. Next tayo. Okay. So another key individual when it comes to data processing is, of course, the data protection officers. Now, under the law, the DPA says each entity has to have one data protection officer. So what are data protection officers? Basically, these are the individuals who are the single ringable neck ni NPC. Because what the NPC is trying to avoid here is being passed around. The NPC doesn't want to call an entity, says, "Hey, I heard that there's a data breach," and the person on the other line says, "Oh, you have to talk to IT." So the NPC calls IT. IT says, "Oh, you have to talk to HR." So the NPC calls HR. The HR says, "Oh, you have to call accounting." So the NPC wants to avoid all of this. That's why they're now mandating that there has to be a single data protection officer or DPO. Para isa lang yung so that they'll be only calling one person. And that person has to be aware of everything data privacy related when it comes to that specific entity. Okay? Now, does that mean that anybody can be a DPO? Can we just hire a probationary employee and make them a DPO? No. Under the law, the DPO should be knowledgeable. They have to be full-time employees. So hindi pwede part-time employees, hindi pwede probationary employees. Hindi pwede i-outsource yung data protection officer mo. Okay? Now, if let's say an entity wasn't aware of this, they didn't appoint a DPO, they didn't hire a DPO, what's the presumption? The presumption is the head of the company becomes a de facto DPO. So if yung highest position is yung president or CEO, if ever any violation occurs, any breach occurs, it's the president or the CEO who becomes liable or is considered as a DPO. Okay? Now, even though the law specifically says that a DPO has to be a full-time employee, Hindi mo pwedeng i-outsource yung DPO mo. What the law does allow is the outsourcing of the functions of the DPO. So what does this look like? This is actually a service that we provide in the Castro. No? Our clients are SMEs. They can't really afford to hire a separate employee just to be the DPO. The president also doesn't have time to comply with all the obligations of the DPO. So what do? They appoint the DPO. Most of the time, it's the president, and they outsource the functions of the DPO. Meaning, kami as a firm, we do all of the tasks that the DPO has to do. We conduct audits, we conduct trainings, we conduct seminars, we check that all of our processing systems are compliant with data privacy laws. We apply and register with the NPC, and then si president lang or si DPO attaches the rubber stamp. So that under the law is of course valid, no? Because you're not outsourcing the DPO itself, you're just outsourcing the functions of the DPO. So yun pwede. Very important to note. You have to know the difference. You can't outsource the DPO itself, but you can outsource the functions. Next tayo. Okay. So now let's move on to the scary part of data privacy, no? Because it's not just all about compliance, it's also about the prohibited acts and the penalties. Now, there are a few prohibited acts under the DPA. So let's discuss a bit. So number one is unauthorized processing. This occurs when personal information is processed without consent and without legal basis. So let's say um, we've collected our employees information, no, not our employees, our customers information. We didn't ask for consent, hindi siya pasok sa legal basis, so that's considered as unauthorized processing. Number two, accessing personal information due to negligence. So it occurs when unauthorized persons gain access to personal information due to negligence. The most common way that this happens is in the office itself. Let's say we have one big office, nandun lahat ng department, accounting, HR, marketing, it's all in one floor. Naka-cubicle lang tayo, hindi siya separate offices. The tendency is whenever we work, our laptops are open, our files are open in our table. So what happens is, let's say someone from accounting walks by to the HR department, makita niya yung laptop ni HR, makita niya yung files ni HR, which dapat uh, he shouldn't be seeing. So that's already accessing personal information due to negligence. So again, it's very important whenever we're working, you have to ensure that only authorized persons are can see our sensitive personal information that we're working on. No. Next is improper disposal. Another commonly left out thing. It occurs when personal information is left in the trash without proper destruction. Now, the NPC suggests that we use yung there's a specific kind of shredder. I forgot what kind of shredder it is. It doesn't just shred paper into strips, it shreds it into very fine pieces. So yun yung sabi ni NPC na advisable natin, because the problem with old shredders that just shreds it into strips is it's anyone who has the time and is willing to exert the effort can reconstruct it. So pwede na lang idikit-dikit yung shredded pieces of paper, and that's going to lead to data breaches. Okay? So very important, whenever we dispose of information, we have to dispose of it properly. Physical files, yun. If it's electronic files, don't just delete it in your computer. Delete it in common drive, delete it everywhere, delete all copies. Okay? So what are other prohibited acts? Next slide, please. The processing of personal information for unauthorized purpose. So this is very commonplace din. What does this mean? Basically, let's say you've collected your customers' information. You said you let them know that I'm going to be collecting it for purpose A. You collected it, you use it for purpose A. Now it's still with you, tapos na yung purpose A. Later on, you realize with this information that I've already collected, I can use it for another purpose, for purpose B. Does that mean that you can use it immediately? Because the common thought process is, I've already collected it, I've already asked for consent, it's already with me. So why can't I just use it readily for another purpose? The reason why you can't do that is because you didn't ask permission for that specific purpose. And as we mentioned earlier, whenever data subjects give out their consent, it has to be granular, it has to be specific. They consented to the use, they consented to purpose A, but they didn't consent to purpose B. So whenever that happens, whenever we have another purpose that we can use information for, we have to ask for consent again. We have to let the data subjects know that we've already collected this information from you, but we found that we can also use it for something else. Is it okay that we use it for that something else? You have to mention it specifically. If they say yes, then you can. If they don't, if they say no, hindi mo pwedeng gamitin for that purpose. Okay? Next is unauthorized access or intentional breach. So dito na papasok yung data breaches, hacking, leaks, and all of these. And then lastly is concealment of security breaches. Now, it's very important to note that this is a separate violation. Let's say a breach has occurred due to our negligence. That's violation number one. Because we're scared of the repercussions, we're scared of the penalties, we didn't inform the NPC that a breach occurred because of our negligence. That's a separate violation. So just because you didn't report it to the NPC, or just because you didn't report it to the data subjects, dalawa na yung violation mo. So nag-double whammy ka na. Nag-double na yung penalties mo. Okay? So it's very important, whenever a breach occurs, we have to follow the breach protocol, which generally is within 72 hours. So if a breach occurs, within 72 hours from the breach, we have to inform the NPC. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. So quick lang, no? We discussed what the unauthorized acts are. And just for everybody's information, medyo hefty yung fine ni NPC, ni DPA. So it's a fine ranging from minimum 500,000 all the way up to 5 million. And it also includes imprisonment ranging from 6 months to all the way up to 7 years. So who are going to be imprisoned whenever there's a data privacy violation? It's not just the DPO. It's whoever is responsible for the violations. So if, let's say, uh, there's this entity, data privacy breach occurred. The NPC does an investigation. Tinawagan nila they called the DPO. They asked the DPO, what happened? Why was there a data breach in your entity? The DPO says, I've informed management that there is a risk that we're undertaking, that there are changes that have to be made. I've made suggestions. I've contacted the management several times to try to remedy the situation, but they did nothing. If the DPO is able to prove that, the DPO won't be imprisoned. Usually, sino may prison is whoever did not approve of any of that. Okay? And then there's this thing called large-scale violations. Um, if ever a data breach affects at least 100 individuals, or the information of 100 individuals, automatic yan, it's the maximum penalty that will always be applied. So it's very important now, if large scale yung violations nyo, large scale yung data breaches, always act on it. Ensure that everything is fixed. Okay? So next slide, please. Okay, so I think this is my last slide and my closing statement now, which is privacy by design. So what is privacy by design? It's this concept where data privacy should be proactive, not reactive. The concept where privacy should already be embedded in our structure, in our governance. It shouldn't be treated as this secondary matter that can just be slapped on. whenever we come up with our business, whenever we come up with our systems, we have to be conscious of data privacy from the very beginning to make it easier for us to incorporate data privacy in our lives. So don't treat data privacy just as um, compliance lang or just as a secondary issue. It should be in the forefront of our minds, and it should be part of our development process. No, so I think that's it. That's the end of my seminar. I hope you've learned something, and thank you very much for listening.
Ayun. So thank you so much for that, Attorney Stefan. Even if some concepts, I think it was very informative for the participants, and I agree with everything you said. Usually, data privacy is seen as an afterthought, but hopefully, we can start to be more proactive, or our participants rather can start to be more proactive when it comes to resolving their data privacy issues, and not rather than being reactive and only thinking of data privacy when a breach or risk happens. They're already having the certain safeguards in place, so there's no risk or breach in the first place. So I think we have a few questions in here from those who submitted the registrations. We've gathered them and would want to ask this to you, Attorney Stefan, and to you, of course, Miss Nicole. And as I've mentioned, there's also a Q&A portion in the Zoom here. So if you guys are interested, to our participants, if you have any questions, you can chat your questions, or you can send in your questions via the Q&A function feature. And for those of you who are asking for handouts, rest assured, we will be promoting some of our free guides and free resources related to the talk today. So I think we can now proceed to the Q&A portion and have our participants' questions answered. So I think I'll just tackle some of the questions in the chat first before I proceed with some of the questions that the participants asked in the registration form. So this one is from, I think, someone working in HR. They asked, and I think this is a question that we usually get a lot in our DPO certification course. But the question is, may I know the salary range or idea po of a DPO, and pwede ba mag-demand po sa management? Currently holds of HR. Thank you po. As far as I know, yes. Right, attorney? Tama po ba?
I don't want to say kasi baka gagamitin yung statement ko. But of course, um, since data privacy, the job of a DPO is very extensive, especially in the beginning. Pwede naman we can always ask our management for additional compensation. But for the rates, I don't know what the current rates are for DPOs today.
Alright. I think ano po, diskarte niyo na yun. But it is,
I feel like they're gonna quote me on this, but I send nila sa management. Oh, you have to pay me more, sabi ni Attorney Stefan.
okay, okay. Ayun. Okay. But attorney's right. I think you can use it to negotiate, because you're liable over a lot of things when you're a DPO. So, ayan. May nag-chat po, attorney. Pa-confirm na lang po or deny yung yung chinat, if within that range, possibly.
I saw the message, and then yes, I've also looked at the current rate, no, and I think it's within that area.
Mm. So
Yun ano.
ano, get certified and be a volunteer as the DPO, so you
Yes.
can leverage that. Okay, so this next question is, I think, let's address some of the questions here. How should a DPO evaluate new AI tools before adoption? So I think for this one, you can answer, Attorney Stefan, and Miss Nicole. If you have any input, you can go ahead and share them as well.
Yeah, so I think it's the same with all data privacy processing systems, no, or tools. As a DPO, we have to conduct what we call as a PIA, or a privacy impact assessment. So it's basically an audit, wherein we look at its effect on data. So as Miss Nicole also mentioned in her speech kanina, no, that there are things that you have to be aware of before we use a data tool or an AI tool. The same din siya. If you want to learn more about how to conduct a PIA, or privacy impact assessment, the NPC has released a wonderful toolkit on everything that has to do with data privacy. They even provided a sample of a PIA and how to do a PIA. So you can use that and jump off from there. No, see, Miss Nicole, do you have anything to add that with regards to the AI use?
Yeah, actually, you can also start simple if your company is already paying for Google or Microsoft. They have already built in co-pilots and AI tools, so they have a stronger protection with data kasi you're already paying for those tools. Maybe start with small tasks already, and as a DPO, you can evaluate if this tools really only process this information. So I think the main thing here is before you evaluate the tool, evaluate the process first. Like ano ba, where will you use this tool or how will you use this? So when you evaluate the process, then you can see if it is really the right tool for you and if it is safe for you to use.
Yes. So that's really great input po. And actually, in the context of us, our company, DCC, I remember there was a time where we wanted like yung what you call this, yung parang note takers. We had a DPO training before where one of the participants wanted to use like an AI note taker. Tapos hindi siya actually pinayagan ni Attorney Arlene kasi hindi niya pa, sabi niya, I'm sorry, we haven't reviewed the policy on that yet. So, hindi muna namin i-allow for now. But, ayan, we're working on it, looking for softwares na ma-approve namin. So, ayan. We also have more AI related questions here. So this one is regarding I think the rise of AI in the context of the workforce. Um, with the rise of AI, how can the younger generation remain competitive, especially when experienced professionals use AI to reduce their workload? Also, does this make it harder for young people to find jobs as reliance on AI increases? So I think this one is a Miss Nicole type of question. Your input regarding this would be very valuable. But Attorney Stefan, if you also have something to say about this, based on what you've seen as a legal practitioner, then you can comment after Miss Nicole po.
Okay. I just turned off my video because I think my internet is getting slow. I'm robotic na actually yung sound. But the answer with the rise of AI, to be honest, let's think of this as the advent of Microsoft Office, diba? Remember before, we have jobs like typewriters, kung nabutan yun, I'm not sure. Ako nabutan ko yun, like there are typewriters. And before, diba, iba yung way natin of handling manual files. And then there's the advent of personal computers. Nagkaroon ng Microsoft Office. Did we, naisip ba natin na mawawala yung jobs? Yes, di ba nawala yung mga typewriting jobs, but the jobs evolve. Now, nandun na sa resume that you know how to use Word, you know how to use Excel. And I believe that's the same with AI. So it's not really the mawawalan tayo ng jobs, 'di ba? To be honest, if you're a young person that's looking for repetitive jobs, to answer this courageously, 'di ba? Kung gusto mo lang is copy paste, typing and everything, I don't think that it's a viable career path, 'di ba? With AI, we have to evolve. Actually, AI gives us something beneficial kasi it gives us time to evolve, 'di ba? To have time for other things. Kasi kung kunyari ang job mo is to copy paste or transcribe this parang physical documents as put it in a computer, well, you have really no learnings there. But with AI, it makes your jobs faster. And then at the same time, you can explore saan pa ba tayo pwedeng mag-evolve as a human being. So I don't think na mawawala yung mga jobs, but the jobs will also evolve. And it is evolving right now. 'Di ba? With the requirements and the things that you need to do, nag-e-evolve din siya. So, with the young generation, I think in every generation then change is something na scary. And ngayon nangyayari siya with AI, but in our time, nangyayari siya with office, with personal computers, 'di ba? That's why nagkaroon ng computer science na mga courses. So, as human being, we are continuously evolving. Then, I think there's multiple questions kasi here eh. So, yun yung, does it make it harder for young people to find jobs as reliance on AI increases? I really don't think so. We just need to evolve at this point. And anyways, I don't want to dwell to go off topic, but that's I think the answer to that. Attorney Stefan.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Miss Nicole. No, you have to look at AI as a tool. Basically, it's not there to replace people. It's there to change the field, evolve. Same din naman as Nicole mentioned earlier. Now, in every generation, there's this drastic change. Um, when the advent of computers, personal computers came in, same fear din na will computers take over humans. It didn't. We 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 used computers now, for our benefit. The same with AI. So don't be scared of AI. Use it as a tool to improve how you work.
Okay. Thank you po for that, Miss Nicole and Attorney Stefan. I think the next questions are related to data privacy and its scope. So someone's asking regarding the scope regarding like private conversations in regards to data privacy, kung applicable po ba or not. Meron pong specific scenario here where employees are using commonly used devices like desktop issued in their department and then nag-log in ng personal account, I'm assuming, and then accidentally it was seen by the management and nalaman na may ginagawang mali yung personnel. So can the management use the information gathered in his messenger as evidence for the violation?
Okay, so that's very relevant. No, I think we have a lot of clients who are asking the same thing. So the
Yes.
problem with that is, computer monitoring devices is a very sensitive topic when it comes to data privacy. The NPC has many times mentioned that absolute computer monitoring, when I say absolute computer monitoring, is whenever employers have this software that they see the whole screen 24/7 of their employees. That's already a violation. Hindi pwedeng ganyan. Um, Even random screenshots of your employees' screens is also a violation of their data privacy. For this very reason, it's because whenever employers do that, their stated purpose is they say it's for business purposes, productivity purposes. They want to ensure that their employees are working properly, doing their jobs. However, there's this specific risk. Now, what if the employee opens their personal social media inside that computer, and the employers accidentally take a screenshot of that, record that? That can already be a violation of their data privacy. Kasi no, yung sinabi lang nila sa employee is, we're here to to measure your productivity. And there are a lot of other ways, less intrusive ways of doing it than this, yung screenshot yung buong screen. So just be aware of that, no, that whenever you want to monitor your employees' productivity, look for the least intrusive ways first. Okay? So yung pag screen monitoring is definitely a violation. So yun. So if yung question niya is, can they use it as evidence? So probably not, kasi violation na siya eh. The fact that you got hold of that information is already a violation.
Okay, so thank you for that, Attorney Stefan. So I think there's also a follow-up regarding the previous topic in regards to, I think, the rise of AI being a threat to the current generation. Someone here asked, would you call it evolved if it decreases a person's ability to think due to its reliance to AI? I think this
Yes,
is for
so
Miss
actually,
Nicole.
I think yeah, I think this is also related to the question, how can the students be encouraged to develop your talents? I think, yeah, 'di ba, how to evolve. As a mom, and I have kids going to school right now, I think it touches something I feel strongly about. No, it's something, and it is something I think we, as adults, business owners, and parents, need to get right. 'Di ba? There's really a real fear right now na nagiging tamad na daw yung mga students, 'di ba? That instead of thinking, they're just copying. Tapos instead of creating, parang they're using AI to just generate. So, let me share how I think about this. Okay, first, dapat AI should be a starting point, not a finishing point. So one of the biggest mistakes students make, or even individuals, 'di ba? Kasi will you call it evolve? One of their mistake is using AI to replace their thinking. So in our company, when we use AI tools, we want to make sure that the employees know how to do it themselves first, and just use AI to enhance what they already parang ginawa nila nung una, what they initially composed, 'di ba? So the people who truly grow are the ones who use AI to spark their thinking and then go deeper. Pwede din kasi na if you have, parang you need a starting point then with your ideas, you can use AI, right? So the output of AI should only be a canvas, or you have already a draft, tapos AI can just enhance it. Okay. The second is that to encourage individual to use AI to explore beyond their boundaries. So siguro relating more on to the students, 'di ba? So one of the most beautiful things about AI is that it makes the parang it creates a democracy, 'di ba? To access to knowledge and tools that were only previously available pag mayaman ka. So imagine a student in some province, parang dreams of becoming a graphic designer, pero hindi niya afford yung mga mahal na tools. But AI image tools can bring their ideas to life, di ba? Without expensive or formal training. So these are just some of the use cases. So parang it encourages us na yung boundaries that were there before, AI removes the barriers, di ba, between what we can do and sometimes also with our dreams. So that is an extraordinary thing if we channel it correctly. The next siguro is we need to teach students what AI cannot, 'di ba? AI can certainly generate a song or a poem, but it cannot generate your poem, 'di ba? That comes from you specifically, from your experience, from your culture, 'di ba? AI can write a business plan, but it cannot write your business plan. Hindi niya alam yung context behind that, like what is your business? Ano ba talagang ginagawa mo? So, what uh this is where creativity lies, and this is where talent grows. This is parang kailangan maging informed yung mga tao what is really AI, kasi right now parang we're thinking na okay, let's replace it, but if you are really using AI, you will see na yung mga generate niya talaga, it's not really all the time helpful to you, hindi siya specific to you. That's why we also need to teach others na the parang shift the measure of how you parang measure creativity. Let's say, for example, nakapag-generate nito, what are the prompts that you used AI to generate this, di ba? What are the choices you made? Parang with every tool, how you used it, pwede siyang maging isang criteria din on how you grade them. Di ba? Let's say, I'm sure lahat tayo nagkaroon ng klase, oh sorry, ako pala, lang generation ko pala, we have classes teaching us how to use Microsoft Word, di ba? And even yung nagko-code ng HTML, like creating your first HTML web page with Friendster. Sorry, yun yung mga panahon ko talaga. Friendster, pagandahan ng profile picture, it's HTML, di ba? So, nung time na yun, you were judged on how well you use that tool. So, I think we can also incorporate that with how we train the next generation and also our employees. And last, this is the one I feel most deeply about. Sorry, ang dami kong sinabi kasi this has also been bothering me, diba? And I also tried to research and to qualify this. And ito nga, so remind each and every one of us that our story cannot be generated. Diba? AI has never experienced growing up, never experienced the pressure of being uh, parang being in the workplace, of having your first task, 'di ba? AI never AI never sat beside a loved one in a hospital and learned something that cannot be found in any data set. So these experiences, these stories are the raw material of creativity, and they belong entirely to us. No AI can take that away. So the powerful thing that what we can do in the age of AI is really know who we are, because that's the one thing AI will never be able to replicate. So me as a president, me as a tech people, me as a mother, AI will never be able to replicate that. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Ayun, thank you po for that, Miss Nicole. I think I would want to ask certain questions from the registration that our present participants will find useful, especially yung nasa intersection po talaga ng data privacy and AI, which is if where is it? Ayan, if we want to automate a service using AI, specifically yung customer service, ano po yung kailangan naming ihanda before launching it to clients?
Hello, sorry V. Nag-Shopee lang ulit yung line.
Oh, okay. The question is, if we want to automate certain services like customer service using AI, ano po yung kailangan naming ihanda before launching it to clients?
So first, di ba, when you're creating this tool, meron kayong sets of questions that you're asking clients, and review those sets of questions and parang have a dry run first of what data, 'di ba? Kaya select me siguro first data set, tapos set of people that you trust, tapos do a dry run with that tool and check kung ano ba yung mga data na nagkikipagpalitan. Kasi that's also what we do with our chatbot. Kasi sometimes AI might go off script, 'di ba? Or it might get information na hindi talaga dapat. So you need to make sure that your guardrails are there. Meron kayo talagang safety in place na ito lang talaga yung data na i-collect nyo. As with kung ano yung privacy policy na inagrihan nila before going into your tool.
All right. For Attorney Stefan naman po, related to data privacy and consent, it's kailangan po ba ng consent from customers or employees if their data will be processed using AI?
Yes, of course, no. Since the NPC has actually, we're still waiting for the NPC's circular when it comes to AI. Kasi wala pa silang exact laws and regulations when it comes to AI. However, what they did mention is that um, regardless of whatever tool you're using, whether it be AI or not, as long as it's processing information of data subjects, you always have to ask for consent unless pasok siya dun sa lawful basis that we enumerated earlier. It doesn't matter if AI siya or hindi, if it processes information, always ask for consent.
Okay. Is that something na need to i-include sa like data privacy policy ng company?
Yes, yes, of course. I think what most companies are doing now, at least, is that we have this thing called privacy notice, usually found in our websites. Now, whenever we log into our website to websites, my privacy notice and that indicates there that we may collect your information for various purposes. So, pwede mo na yung add there na we may be using an AI system to collect your information.
Very interesting. So I think we have a lot of DPOs here. So take note of that na lang and pa-update na po ng policies niyo. Um, there's also a question here that I think can be answered by both of you. So this one says, "Hi, our founder slash owner just recently discovered AI and she's a really big fan of it. So she always says na we can use it, but I fear na she doesn't really understand the risks involved and how AI might hallucinate from time to time. She always says that use AI now, ayusin na lang natin yung policies later. Ano po advice nyo for a situation like this? So I think we can do Miss Nicole and then Attorney Stefan. You can comment on that. Miss Nicole?
Hello?
Ayan.
Okay, so actually, uh, I am against that na you will start with using AI tools now and then parang ayusin na lang later. Kasi first and foremost, you need to be careful nga with what you're sharing or how you are using AI. Hindi na, to be honest, hindi naman siya talaga dapat supposed to be scary. Siguro, if you really want to use AI, start with something low risk, 'di ba? Parang start with drafting content or summarizing notes or even writing emails, 'di ba? Start with that. Tapos nothing that really involves real client data or real financials or even employee information. So then get comfortable with how AI works first. Pagka okay na sa inyo and nakita nyo okay naman siya with the generation and how you're using it as a team. Tapos how it can help you remember that don't let AI do all the generation. You need to have parang a structure first para it's still you. Then as you build confidence, you can build more governance around it. And then you can now explore more AI tools. So more AI tools for more processes. The key thing again is identify first the processes. No, usually mga repetitive tasks and how you can use AI around that. So yun muna yung unang mindset. Kung ano yung pwede yung paulit-ulit na ginagawa, pwede na siguro natin gawa ng AI or gamitin si AI for that. Yan.
Mm. Okay, thank you po for that, Miss Nicole. How about you, Attorney Stefan? Ano pong input niyo since medyo natawa po ata kayo sa
I mean, exactly as Miss Nicole said, no. Even from a compliance and legal standpoint, that's just a disaster waiting to happen. Um, if you're not going to be fixing your policies first before you use your AI, the chances of data privacy violations and leakages is very high. You can't also say na the NPC doesn't really do much because a lot of people aren't really scared of the NPC. They say now they don't really feel its presence, but I'm letting you know that the NPC is becoming very active. They're doing a lot of audits, and if your company is using AI without any policies, mananagot talaga kayo. If the NPC finds out that there's a lot of violations, then there's nothing stopping them from imposing all the penalties and all the fines that they can. So always start with policies first.
Okay, so agreed. And that's always what we say at the Castro Consulting. Better to be proactive than reactive. Because if I'm not mistaken, Attorney Stefan, we've had clients who come to us na fina-fine na sila or may letter na, right? Ayan. So, for the last one, I think this is the last question we can entertain for today. But I think both your input again. So, who should be involved in creating an AI policy? Is it just HR, legal, IT, or leadership? What if we're still a small company and we don't have like a specific department for that yet?
Okay, so from my earlier talk, 'di ba? I highly, highly suggest that you involve everyone. Kasi if everyone is involved in the policy making, they're more likely to follow it. Right? Kasi sila, kayo yung gumawa ng policy. I think it's easier actually to implement a policy with a smaller team. So, go over the steps that I've given. It's just really quick lang naman. Very easy to do if you're a small team. Then you can analyze, then assess, and draft. So, doesn't need to be too technical. And I think the talk from Attorney Stefan is also really helpful that we can now identify what are the data that are personally identifiable information, right? So with that, you can do it. If you need any help, you can shoot us an email anytime.
Okay, how about you, Attorney Stefan, as a legal practitioner? What's your
Yeah.
say on that question?
I think it's the same with our suggestion with creating the data breach response teams or the data protection office in your company. It's always best practice to involve each and every department, especially those that um, are concerned or shared majority shareholders. No, whenever you develop policies, as Miss Nicole mentioned, you have to take into account the opinion of everyone involved because the whole entity is going to be using it. It's not just HR is going to be using it. It's not just IT. So involve everyone in the decision making and the policy drafting.
Okay, so thank you so much for that, Attorney Stefan and Miss Nicole. So unfortunately, as I've mentioned, that's all the time we have for the question and answer. But if you have other questions that you really, really want answered, then no worries. You can message us anytime, and we will relay your questions to Attorney Stefan and Miss Nicole. So I think we're now reaching the conclusion of the talk. But of course, before we officially close, we have a few important resources for you. So, Miss Nicole, if you want to kind of talk about this a bit, but Digitier offers consultations if you guys are interested in knowing more, and you can scan the QR code to go on their free consultation. And then, other than that, Miss Nicole, if you also have anything to say about this.
Yeah, so if you have any other questions or something that sparked your interest, or if you want to go technical with this one, more technical in depth about AI, about a workflows, and even starting your own automation, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation with us. We can even help you generate your own or create your own policy, simple policy as a starting point for your company.
All right. Other than that, next slide, please. I think, yes, you guys also offer a paid workshop,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, about AI readiness.
Yes. So, this is an assessment and audit with your company to really assess if you're AI ready. Kasi, from our experience, most company, they want to jump into AI already kasi it's the trend, diba? Like, we need to be able to use AI or else we'll be get left behind. But, there's really a process to that. So, if you're jumping the gun as early, you might exposing yourself to unnecessary risks. So, we're doing workshop uh, designed to help organizations, and we also evaluate with them how ready they are for AI and what are the processes and automation that AI can help with. So you can request a workshop with us with this, just scan the QR code.
All right. And of course, it's not just Digitier who offers free consultations. We also do it for you guys. If you guys want to have your compliance and current DPO structure assessed, then we also offer free consultations for that. This is essentially for those of you who want to understand whether your data privacy practices are compliant, whether you guys need to register or update your requirements. So if you guys are interested, then you can scan the QR code and hop on a free call with our experts. And of course, other than that, for those of you who were requesting handouts, we do offer free resources through our the Castro Consulting Masterclass Hub, which you can access by scanning the QR code flashed in the screen. So it is your one-stop page for everything masterclass related. You can find upcoming masterclass and of course, free resources, downloadable guides, and event updates or other learning opportunities from the Castro Consulting. But we, of course, want to highlight our free resources. So we have our latest guide, which is the compliance trap. For if you have anyone in here from accounting or those working in their company's financial aspects, then you can access this free guide. You can download it for free by going to the Masterclass Hub. And for those of you who were really interested in Attorney Stefan's talk, some of the information that he relayed can be found in the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to the Data Privacy Act of 2012. And of course, since we also have some people here from HR, you can access our strategic leadership blueprint for specifically designed for HR practitioners. So these are all in the Masterclass Hub, and you can access them by scanning the QR code. And of course, lastly, we also have our upcoming DPO certification course in July 21 to 24. So if you want to go above and beyond awareness and really build a stronger internal capability, so we would like to invite you in our certification course. This will be coordinated by me and Attorney Stefan, our go-to data privacy person. So this is your opportunity to work with him directly. We offer hands-on support, and you can really expand your knowledge as a DPO. So I know that we have DPOs in here, and this is a great opportunity for you guys to upskill. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code, and this is a four day long course with where you can earn your certification. So it's designed for professionals and organizations who wants to strengthen their DPA compliance. And of course, we're also going to have a closed door executives briefing regarding the state of AI and HR in 2026. We're currently opening the waitlist for this upcoming event happening in August 2026. So this is not just a regular public masterclass, but it's rather a closed door briefing designed for executives, founders, business leaders, and for those of you who are in HR, this is an opportunity for you to connect with fellow professionals in the space and join in a strategic conversation regarding how AI is reshaping HR, leadership, workforce, and organizational accountability. So please note that this is a wait list and participants are subject to approval. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code and put your name. And of course, for those of you in here who are students or knowledge seekers who are currently looking for opportunities, we are hiring. So if in case you are interested in any of the positions that are flashed in the screen, then you can send your resume to Bernie at thecastroconsulting.ph. You can just simply take a screenshot of this. So please note that your email should contain your CV and your resume, and a recruiter will review your application and contact you if she thinks you're a fit for any of these positions. So I think that's everything that we wanted to get out of the way. You can feel free to connect to us, and you can access the post survey form by scanning the QR code. And if you encounter any difficulties, just feel free to say so as well. And as you guys are filling up the post survey form, I would just like to formally close by asking you guys if there's any word that describes today's session, because there is for me, and it's accountability. Because a lot of times when we talk about AI and data privacy, it's often just an afterthought. But thinking about how we can be accountable when it comes to navigating through these frameworks is really something that's going to help our organization grow. So once again, on behalf of the Castro Consulting, Digitier, Miss Nicole, and Attorney Stefan, I would want to thank everyone for being a part of the Castro Consulting's Masterclass Season 4, Episode 5, AI Done Right, Leveraging AI and Data Privacy to Strengthen Business Decisions. I am Viela Ann Santiago, and see you in our next Masterclass. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Our topic for today is all about labor relations. Labor relations is indeed a very important topic. So I'm very happy today because I'm in the presence of professionals. And I'm also happy because I'm in the presence of fellow business owners, founders, and COOs. And also we have people who are knowledge seekers. Tip number 1, create a telecommuting policy for your employees. Ano ba tong telecommuting policy? What's important to note here is that wala dapat discrimination or wala dapat iniba sa terms and conditions of employment ng taong nagwo-work from home versus sa taong nasa office ninyo. Okay? That's the most salient feature of that law.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, let me welcome Attorney Arlene D. Castro.
You need to set as an expectation from the start of employment the duties and responsibilities of the employee for it to be valid. If you provide all those to the employee, such as rewards and recognition, etc., then I doubt that you will ever need to have this labor relations management program for your employees. So thank you guys and have a great day.
Meet Linkit, your team's new sales tool that allows you to turn more people into customers. With Linkit, you can simply tap your Linkit to another person's phone to send them all your contact information instantly. Watch as your team's leads and sales skyrocket by up to 240% and save over 50% on calling card printing costs. Discover advanced Linkit features, such as our Exchange Contact feature, where you can also collect your client's contact information, rather than just sending them yours, and our offline feature that allows your Linkit to work, even without Wi-Fi. You can also use Direct Link to choose a specific link that others access directly after tapping your Linkit card. Toggled on and off from your dashboard for seamless connections. Awesome, right? Enjoy unlimited sharing for life, unlimited edits to your profile, and unlimited links on your profile. It's never been easier for your team to meet people and convert them into customers. Go to www.linkit.asia to get Linkit for your team today.
Came from a desire to create a practice that was more than just a legal service provider. I wanted to build a firm that was a true partner to our clients. I saw a need for a more personalized, empathetic approach to the law, one that focused on proactive counsel and long-term relationships rather than just reactive litigation. Our firm was built on the principle that the law should be an enabler of business and not an obstacle.
Our firm's core practice areas are corporate law, commercial law, intellectual property, and dispute resolution. Together, these disciplines form the pillars of modern business. By focusing on these interconnected fields, we deliver comprehensive support that empowers clients to navigate every stage of the business lifecycle with confidence.
We ensure our clients feel supported through a commitment to transparent communication and a personalized approach tailored to their case. From the very first consultation, we make sure to provide a clear roadmap of the legal process, we set realistic expectations, and we break down complex legal jargon so they would understand everything. Of course, this is very important in establishing rapport with our clients. We also assign a dedicated legal team to each client, so there is always someone who knows their case inside and out.
We collaborate based on a culture of shared knowledge and expertise, recognizing that no single lawyer can fully address all aspects of a complex case. In handling such matters, we maximize the specialized knowledge of different lawyers within the firm, whether in litigation, corporate law, taxation, labor, or regulatory compliance, so that each angle is thoroughly addressed.
We operate on three core values: integrity, empathy, and excellence. We believe in being honest and earning our clients' trust. We make sure to understand our clients' perspective so we can provide the best counsel, and we're committed to delivering a level of service that goes above and beyond.
I represented someone who had been with his company since the beginning. He spent years developing software, bringing in clients, and helping build the business from the ground up. He approached us because his company was pushing him out. They offered him only a fraction of what his shares were worth, and he was ready to accept it, not knowing any better. Now, with our intervention, we secured a settlement of up to 4 times the original offer. Today, he runs his own successful marketing business, a reminder that the right legal support can completely change the course of someone's future.
Adaptability is in our DNA. We stay ahead of the curve through continuous education and proactive engagement with the new legal and business trends.
We are focused on expanding our digital footprint and our expertise in high-growth areas like data privacy, cybersecurity, and AI law. The business landscape is evolving rapidly, and our goal is not only to keep pace, but to be at the forefront of these new legal frontiers. We will continue to invest in our team and technology to ensure that we can provide the most forward-thinking, comprehensive legal support to our clients for the years to come. At the Castro Law Firm, we offer faster solutions, smarter strategies, and real results. We are not just your legal advisors. We are your partners for growth.
Okay, hello, my name is Angelo Romero. I'm the President and CEO of PNP Pain Center Corporation. Our company is a service company and we operate physical therapy and rehabilitation services.
Actually, sobrang dami naming challenges before working with the Castro, especially when it comes to the HR department. No, lahat ng mga aspects doon when it comes to proper termination, yung mga pag-build ng mga policies and all. So, doon kami pinaka nahirapan and natulungan kami na ma-align and maging compliant sa mga legalities and all ni De Castro. Overall, sobrang fun, sobrang collaborative, lalo na lahat ng mga staff, even sila attorney, no, hindi sila mahirap i-reach out, and at the same time, ang dami namin natututunan sa kanila, hindi lang more on sa HR aspects, even yung mga important ones, kaya masasabi ko naman na nag-grow talaga kami professionally dito kay De Castro.
I would definitely recommend it because definitely we appreciate yung services of De Castro. And sa mga co-businesses like us, we should accept or i-take natin to as not as an expense, no, but an investment. Kasi definitely to have structured HR processes is an advantage for our company. We could not cover everything on ourselves, no. It's good to have a partner, especially expert on these areas. So having a partner, especially for HR compliance, it's nice to have like a De Castro consultancy services for our company.
name is Alvanson So. I am known here as Manson. I am the regional people lead for Canva Philippines, and later this year we're going to branch out into Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. So it's going to be a truly regional role, which I'm very excited about. In the beginning of Canva, we need to explore tools that help us scale. We have to take a look at the processes that are quite repetitive, quite administrative heavy, and has a huge opportunity for automations. There's a lot of compliance and regulatory requirements. So the first boxes that we need to tick was to find platforms that will help enable the HR processes to get through and get done in as little effort and as little mistake as possible. Scale is very important. Efficiency, of course, becomes very critical as the size of the organization and the complexities of our processes get bigger. And definitely, we want to make sure that the platforms that we choose are the ones that can grow and scale in the same speed and pace as Canva. When we explore options, you also definitely want to consider who are the biggest contenders, who are the providers that are known to be reliable. We have to go down to cost and how this scales as we grow the company. And I think that this list of tick boxes have been quite exceptionally met by Sprout, which is why I think we've been with Sprout for the last 7+ years. Canva has been with Sprout even before I joined. When I joined Canva, for example, we were just around 250 employees, and platforms like Sprout is able to deliver the needs quite promptly, accurately, and despite growing to 900 headcount that we have today, same speed and reliability is expected and delivered without fail. I really like that we see higher velocities of work, where I get to do more with less, and people are actually not having any issues despite complexities and the increase in transactions, which is really good because it just gives us even more confidence that despite the growth or despite the changes in our ways of working, Sprout remains to be a reliable partner. There's many different alternatives available. We go for the company and for the platform that delivers its promise through great aftercare, great customer care, great technological interfaces, good customer support, and of course, the expected reliability that you get from Sprout. They're reliable, they are real partners, and they envision what we see as the future of our company. And we want to be able to work hand in hand to get to where we want to be in the next 10 years or so.
My name is Munish Mahajan. I'm the CEO and President of Pinnacle Intelligence. It's a company that's revolutionizing the US automotive retail industry. We started this company almost a few months back, and the intent is to bring global talent, technology, and analytics to this industry and improve their profitability, sales, and customer experience. Thankfully, I have had 2 stints before where I started a company from scratch, and both the times was in Philippines. And in between, I worked for a company in the corporate world. And as we were starting Pinnacle, I just remembered those times when I first started my stint with the other 2 startup companies. I recall there were a lot of challenges as we were growing. Especially when you're small, it's not easy to attract talent. It's not easy to attract the best talent. People, they want to join large, stable companies. That's one. And then I'm based in the US. So I needed eyes, ears, my arms and legs on the ground. So when I met Arlene for the first time, and when I met the entire team, and she walked me through what DeCastro could do, I knew this was a solution, that this is what we had to choose. And we actually signed up with DeCastro, and I'm so glad that we made that decision.